What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to the video. Today, I'll be taking a look at the entry list for the 2024 YellaWood 500 at Talladega Superspeedway. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. We're going to start talking about the one car for Trackhouse Racing. This, of course, be driven by Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain's coming off of winning this past week at Kansas Speedway and has been a previous winner at Talladega in the spring of 2022. He's looking to continue that momentum and carry that momentum into this weekend. He'll be looking to get back-to-back victories and will be looking to pick up his second win of 2024. Have a chance and opportunity to do that this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. Up next, top of the two car for Team Penske. This one's going to be driven by Austin Cindric. Austin Cindric had a bad race at Kansas Speedway. However, he's been very good at Talladega and has won a stage a couple times in the past at this racetrack. Austin Cindric's been really good with the Fords as well, and I think Austin Cindric will have a really good chance and a strong opportunity to potentially get his second win of 2024, potentially advance to the round of 8 of the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs this weekend. Up next, top of the three car for Richard Childress Racing. This one's going to be driven by Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon's coming off finishing 12th this past weekend at Kansas Speedway, and he's been pretty solid at super speedways throughout his NASCAR Cup career as he's won at Daytona twice and has had some good finishes at Talladega in the past. He'll be looking for a second win of the 2024 season as he did win in Richmond in controversial fashion. He'll look to win the race and go to victory lane this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. Up next, top of the four car for Stewart-Haas Racing. This one's going to be driven by Josh Berry. Josh Berry had a disastrous run at Kansas Speedway where he finished in last. Now, I think Josh is an okay super speedway racer and had one of the fastest cars at Daytona the last time he ran there. I think Josh Berry could have a solid chance and opportunity to run up front with how fast the Fords are going to be. I could see Josh Berry having a chance and a strong opportunity to potentially pick up his first career NASCAR Cup Series win this weekend at Talladega. Up next, top of the five car for Hendrick Motorsports. This one's going to be driven by Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson is looking for a really strong rebound after a not-so-great race at Kansas where he finished 26th after having a flat tire. And Kyle Larson historically has not been great at super speedway tracks. He's looking for redemption this week, and maybe he could get that redemption to super speedway, maybe get that first super speedway win ever. But Kyle Larson realistically might end up running into problems and trouble this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway with the 5 team. Up next, how about the 6 car for RFK Racing? This one's going to be driven by Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski's looking for a really good rebound this week and had an okay run at Kansas, but not the greatest run in the world. Now, luckily for Brad, he's really good at Talladega. He's won here 6 times in his NASCAR Cup career and is looking for his first win at this track since he became an owner of this team. Brad's looking for a very good run this weekend. I think Brad will have the pace and speed for sure to contend this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway with the 6 team. Up next, how about the 7 car for Spire Motorsports? This one's going to be driven by Justin Haley, who will make his second start in this team for this year. Justin Haley's looking for a really good rebound run. He's been a solid super speed racer in the past, and his 7 car with Corey LaJoie has had a chance and opportunity to run up front. And I think he actually will have a good chance and opportunity to contend with the 7 team. He's been pretty good at super speedways throughout his NASCAR career, considering he's got 4 Xfinity wins at super speedway tracks. I think he'll have a good chance and opportunity to contend for a potential win this weekend at Talladega. Up next, how about the 8 car for Richard Childress Racing? This one's going to be driven by Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is looking for redemption. He had a really good chance and opportunity to win at Kansas Speedway this past week before unfortunately made a little mistake trying to get by Chase Briscoe at the end of the event. I think Kyle Busch is going to have a really good chance. He's been really strong in super speedways throughout the year. He nearly won at Daytona, had a chance to win at Talladega as well. I think Kyle Busch could have a chance and opportunity to potentially get his first win of 2024 this weekend at Talladega. Up next, how about the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This one's going to be driven by Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott had a very quiet run at Kansas Speedway where he finished inside the top 10. Luckily for Chase, I think he also will be pretty fast. He's been pretty good in super speedways throughout this year. Where he hasn't won a super speedway track, he did win at Talladega in the fall 2 years ago. I could see him having a really strong chance and opportunity. And I do think he'll be pretty competitive for sure this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. Up next, how about the 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This will once again be driven by Noah Gragson. Last year in the spring race, when Noah Gragson drove for Legacy Motor Club, he had a chance and opportunity to win his first Cup race. He also has 1 year previously in Xfinity Series back in 2021 or 2022. I think Noah's going to have a chance and opportunity. He's a solid super speedway racer, and like I mentioned already, the Fords are going to be strong and pretty fast. So I think Noah Gragson could have a solid and a pretty good run for sure this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. Up next, how about the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This one's going to be driven by Denny Hamlin. Now, Denny Hamlin historically is a really good super speedway racer. However, in the next-gen era, Denny Hamlin has completely struggled. I'm not really expecting much from Denny Hamlin going into this weekend because the Toyotas are going to have low numbers. But if Denny Hamlin can get hooked up with the Toyotas and the Toyotas maybe can work with the Chevrolets, I can see Denny Hamlin having a pretty good and strong run for sure this weekend at Talladega. Up next, up with the 12th car for Team Penske. This one's going to be driven by Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney's coming off finishing in the top 5 at Kansas Speedway, and also Ryan Blaney has been pretty good this year on super speedways, and also remember, is the defending winner of the YellaWood 500. I expect it to be really strong this weekend. I think Ryan Blaney will have a really strong chance and a fantastic opportunity to potentially get his 3rd win of 2024, maybe his first ever Cup Series win at the Talladega Superspeedway racetrack. Up next, out with the 13 car for Kaulig Racing. This one's going to be driven by AJ Allmendinger, who will make his 3rd or 4th start in this number 13 car this year. Now, we know this 13 car Watkins Glen unfortunately had electrical issues. If this car could stay out of trouble, I could see this car having a chance and opportunity to run up front, but it's also been inconsistent throughout this year on the reliability side. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see if AJ Allmendinger can have a solid and pretty good run this weekend at Talladega. Up next, how about the 14 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This one's going to be driven by Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe caused a lot of controversy this past weekend at Kansas Speedway when he got into a little bit with Kyle Busch near the end of the race. He's looking for redemption, had a terrible run at Kansas, and is looking for a bounce-back run. He's qualified pretty well, so if he can qualify up front, I could see him having a chance and opportunity, maybe get his 2nd win of the year. If he's up front at the end, the 14 car has a chance. I could see Chase Briscoe potentially getting his 3rd career Cup Series victory for sure this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway with the 14 team. Up next, how about the 15 car for Rick Ware Racing? This one's going to be driven by Cody Ware. The last time Cody Ware ran in the Cup Series, I believe, was at Daytona. He actually surprisingly got a top 5. And I feel like the Rick Ware cars have been decent on super speedways this season. I think Cody Ware could have a top 10 run potentially, which is kind of shocking for me to say that, but I could see him having a very solid run. Or maybe just maybe this time around, we'll see Cody Ware end up, unfortunately, getting involved in a crash and incident. We could all see Haley Deegan behind the wheel for the year, and you'll never know at this point. But Cody Ware will be behind the wheel for sure this weekend. Up next, up with the 16 car for Kaulig Racing. This, of course, will be driven by Shane Van Gisbergen, who will make his 6th or 7th Cup Series start of the year. The last time SVG ran, he nearly won at Watkins Glen, finishing 2nd in a great duel with Chris Buescher. I expect SVG to have a really good chance and opportunity to maybe get a solid run. I'm not expecting him to be up front and win. I could see him lead a few laps, but I think he might fall back at the end. But if he can survive all this stuff, he could have a chance to run up front near the end of the event at Talladega Superspeedway. Up next, on the 17 car for RFK Racing. This one's going to be driven by Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher has had a pretty solid year so far in 2024 and got the win not too long ago at Watkins Glen in that great duel with Shane Van Gisbergen. And Chris Buescher has won at Daytona, that being last year. He's been pretty good at the super speedways, and if he and Brad can get hooked up, I could see Chris Buescher having a strong chance and opportunity to potentially pick up the win for sure this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. Up next on the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one's going to be driven by Martin Truex Jr. This past week at Kansas, Martin Truex Jr. got his first top 5 finish since the last time he ran at Kansas in May. Unfortunately, I don't think the celebration is going to continue. Truex has not been great at super speedways in the next-gen era, and really since he got to the Cup Series, I'm really not expecting much from Martin. I do think he'll probably, unfortunately, end up struggling once again and not running well this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway with the 19 team. Up next, up with the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one's going to be driven by Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell had a very solid run at Kansas, and to be fair, has been okay at super speedways. He got a top 5 in the last couple of super speedway races he ran, but I don't expect him to be a major threat for the victory because of the Toyota issues. That being said, I could see Bell have a decent run and put him in a much better position going to the Roval for the playoffs as well. I could see him having a chance to be competitive. Up next, out with the 21 car for the Wood brothers. This one's going to be driven by Harrison Burton. Harrison Burton, of course, won the last super speedway on a traditional super speedway at Daytona not too long ago. And Harrison's been decent on super speedways in the past. I can see Harrison having a chance and opportunity, maybe get a top 10. I don't expect him to get a win this upcoming week, but you never know. I've seen a lot of shocking things, and I've seen a lot of surprises in my time. We could see him have a decent run for sure this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. Up next, how about the 22 car for Team Penske? This will once again be driven by Joey Logano. Joey Logano has been very good at super speedways throughout his NASCAR Cup career. And remember, he won Atlanta Motor Speedway not too long ago, and he's been really strong on super speedways throughout this year. I think he's going to have a really good chance and opportunity, especially with how fast the Penske cars have been at super speedways. I think Logano could have a very solid and fantastic run for sure this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway. Up next, how about the 23 car for 23XI Racing? This, of course, be driven by Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is a former winner of Talladega back in the fall of 2021. And Bubba's been pretty good at super speedways over the last couple of years as well in the next-gen era. I think if Bubba's in position to have a chance and opportunity to win, I think he could get it done. He's still looking for his first win of the 2024 Cup season. I could see him having that chance and a potential opportunity to maybe get it done for sure this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway with the 23 team. Up next, how about the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This will once again be driven by William Byron. William Byron had a really good run this past weekend in Kansas, finishing in the runner position right behind Ross Chastain. And I do think that William Byron will have a chance and opportunity to maybe win. He's been pretty solid at Talladega and could potentially lock his way into the round of 8 with a really strong run. I think he's got a chance and opportunity to do it, and I think William Byron will be a pretty serious threat and a pretty big contender to have a chance and opportunity to be up front for sure this weekend at Talladega. Up next, how about the 31 car for Kaulig Racing? This will once again be driven by Daniel Hemric. It was announced this past week that Daniel Hemric will not return to Kaulig Racing in the 2025 season, so he's currently racing for his job going into 2025. Now, Hemric has been decent at super speedways, has contended in the past, and we know Kaulig can bring some good super speedway race cars. So if Hemric can have a good run and maybe pick up the win in victory, it could help his potential of finding a ride for 2025. He's still looking for a ride. We'll see what he can do for sure this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway. Up next, how about the 34 car for Front Row Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Michael McDowell. Now, most likely, Michael McDowell is going to win another Super Speedway pole, considering he's gone 4 straight Super Speedway races where he's gone on won the pole. The question is, can he sustain it throughout the race? Because he almost won at Talladega in the spring, was 1 lap away from getting it done. I think if McDowell's in position to have a chance and opportunity to win, I could see him being a major threat and a serious contender to potentially pick up the win and the victory if he's in position to get it done this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway. Up next, how about the 38 car for Front Row Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Todd Gillen. Todd Gillen has also qualified very well at Super Speedways and has also led a ton of laps at Super Speedways throughout the 2024 season. I think he's going to have a chance and opportunity to be competitive. He's been really strong at Super Speedways throughout this year and has been pretty much up front a lot of this season. I could see Todd Gillen having a pretty strong and great run with the 38 team for sure this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway with the 38. Up next, how about the 41 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This will once again be driven by Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece will be sponsored by Wonder Bread this weekend, and Ryan Preece is also still looking for a job going into 2025, though he's very likely going to be joining RFK Racing in the 2025 season. He's been really good at super speedways at times this year. I can see Ryan Preece having a solid chance and opportunity to be competitive for sure this weekend with the 41 team at Talladega. Up next, how about the 42 car for Legacy Motor Club? This will once again be driven by John Hunter Nemechek. This year for John Hunter has been a complete disaster. He's the lowest in points of all full-time drivers, I believe, currently at the moment, and has been fading as the year has progressed and gone on. He needs to really turn up the wick, and I'm not really expecting much. The Legacy cars just haven't had the overall pace and overall speed throughout the year. I'm not really sure if John Hunter is going to have that chance and opportunity to turn up the wick this weekend at Talladega. Up next, how about the 43 car for Legacy Motor Club? This will once again be driven by Eric Jones. It's also been a struggle for Eric Jones in 2024. Luckily for Eric Jones, he's been pretty good at Talladega in the past and nearly won at this track 2 years ago. I can see Eric Jones having a chance and an opportunity to maybe steal the win this week and get his 4th win of his NASCAR Cup career. I think he will have a chance and opportunity if he is in position to potentially get that done for sure this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway with the 43. Up next, up with the 44 car for NY Racing. This will once again be driven by JJ Yeley for the second week in a row. JJ Yeley actually had decent pace at Kansas Speedway, and NY Racing looks to be a little more competitive as of recently. But I'm not expecting him to set the world on fire, though at least unlike Daytona, they will have a chance to be competitive. So we'll see what JJ Yeley can do behind the wheel of the number 44 car this weekend at Talladega. Up next, up with the 45 car for 23XI Racing. This will once again be driven by Tyler Reddick. It has been a disaster start to the playoffs for Tyler Reddick so far in 2024. Last time he ran here, though, he went to victory lane. And Tyler Reddick's actually been pretty decent in super speedways this year, a lot better than he's been in previous years. But I'm not really sure what to expect and what we're going to get from Tyler Reddick. So we'll see what he ends up doing, and we'll see if he can be solid and pretty competitive in that number 45 car for sure this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway, and we'll see if we can turn it around. Up next, how about the 47 car for JTG Doherty Racing? This will once again be driven by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is looking for some redemption. Had a terrible run at Kansas Speedway. But luckily for him, he's been pretty good at Talladega in the past, as he did win at this track back in 2017, and is usually up front in super speedways every time he's in an Xfinity or Cup Series super speedway race. I think he's going to have a chance and opportunity, and I do think he'll have a good chance and opportunity for sure to be very competitive in that number 47 car if they bring to speed this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway. Up next, how about the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman has been absolutely outstanding through the first 4 races of the playoffs, and I expect it to continue this weekend. The 48 team was just bringing championship caliber speed. He's had 15 or 16 top 10s so far this year, and Bowman's been close to winning at Talladega in the past. He's probably going to have a chance to get a lot of stage points, and if he does well enough, he could have a really good chance and opportunity to maybe, just maybe, locking his way into the round of 8 with a really good run this weekend at Talladega. Up next, how about the 51 car for Rick Ware Racing? This will once again be driven by Corey LaJoie and makes his second start behind the wheel of this seat. Well, there's been nothing official announced in regards to Corey LaJoie. He's still the favorite to get behind the wheel of this seat for next year, and Corey LaJoie had a really solid run at Kansas, finishing in 15th. If he can run really well this weekend in the 51, I think the seat will be his going into next year, and he's still the favorite, by the way. So I expect him to have a solid chance and opportunity with the speed the 51 team has showed in the past at this racetrack. Up next, how about the 54 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This will once again be driven by Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs had a chance to win Atlanta earlier this year, but was not able to come through at the end of the day. He's looking for a good run this weekend at Talladega, so looking for his first Cup Series win. He's been inconsistent in super speedways in the past, but I could see Ty Gibbs having a chance and opportunity to maybe, just maybe, run up front and maybe be a contender for sure this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway. Up next, how about the 62 car for Beard Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Anthony Alfredo, who will make his third and final scheduled start of this year. Anthony has been good at Talladega in the past, and also remember, he finished 6th earlier this year. And he also got a top 5 last time in the Xfinity race as well, so he could have a chance and opportunity, and I could see Anthony being pretty solid and pretty competitive for sure this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway. Up next, how about the 71 car for Spire Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Zane Smith. Zane Smith has been super outstanding through the second half of this year. He just got his 4th or 5th top 10 of the year recently, and he's had an incredible average finish over the last 10 to 12 races. He's still looking for a ride going into 2025, but he's still the favorite to drive the number 36 or 38 or another number front row is going to choose. He's been really good recently, and I'm glad to see that he is definitely turning up the wick, as he has been running pretty good as of late and recently. Up next, how about the 77 car for Spire Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar had a really good run going at Kansas, led a few laps in the race, but unfortunately got caught up in a wrecking incident late in the event. It was not happy with Chase Briscoe. Carson's looking for redemption. He hasn't been great at this track before, but I've been proven wrong, especially with the Spire cars showing the pace and speed they have shown as of recently. So Carson's looking for a very solid, and he'll be looking for a pretty strong and good run for sure this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway with the 77. Up next, how about a 78 car for Live Fast Motorsports? This will once again be driven by BJ McLeod, who will make at this point, his final Cup start of this year. BJ is looking for a good run. He's had good speed at this track. He led a couple laps at Talladega in the spring, and he's had decent speed on super speedways this year with the pace they've been getting. So we'll see what BJ can do, and we'll see if he can have a solid and good run in this car this weekend. And finally, let's talk about the 99 car for Trackhouse Racing. This will once again be driven by Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez salvaged a pretty good finish considering the beginning of the race did not go so well for Daniel. He is looking for a good run this weekend. He's looking to get a top 10 potentially. He did finish in the top 5, finishing second in Atlanta earlier this year. So he's looking for that really strong and great run with the number 99 team for sure this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway once again. So, that is going to be it for the entry list for the 2024 YellaWood 500 at Talladega. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Find me to Facebook and Instagram and support my Patreon as well. List description below that and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. What's your thoughts about the interest? Let me know them in the comments below. There'll be Truck Series race picks dropping later this morning. Then tomorrow on the channel, you'll see a NASCAR news video along with the Xfinity Series race picks video. And then on Thursday, you're going to see the Cup race picks for the YellaWood 500 along with, of course, the paint scheme video. And then on Friday, we'll have the NASCAR Cup news video along with the Truck Series race review, followed by on Saturday, reaction to Cup qualifying, Xfinity review, and an SVG video. And then on Sunday, we'll have the starting lineup, the Cup review, and an SVG video dropping along with Monday, most likely being NASCAR news video as we head to the Charlotte Roval. Got a lot of great content dropping that I cannot wait for you guys to check out. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.